Okay, so welcome to the Wycliffe brand webinar. Lisa Meharry is actually going to be our instructor today. My name is Jen Woodrum. I'm a PD coach out of Dallas. I've been a coach for about 5 or 6 years now. I just want to give you a little bit of information about how to use Zoom before we get started. So the first thing is if you're in full screen mode, which will happen automatically when Lisa begins to share her screen. If you want to exit that full screen mode, if you hit the escape key, it'll shrink it down a little bit so you can access your desktop again. If you have any questions, notice that we can't see or hear you today, but we do have a chat window going. So if you have any questions as Lisa is teaching, feel free to put those into the chat. And either I will answer them or I will give them over to Lisa so that she's able to address any questions that come up. You do have some privacy options on the chat. So if you notice a little drop-down menu, you can see that you can either do it to panelists or you can do it to everybody in the panelists. So if you don't want anybody but us to see it, that's a way to kind of have some control over that. We will have a survey at the end of the webinar today that you'll also receive an email later that'll have that link. If you take just a few minutes to fill that out, we're constantly trying to find ways to make things better and value you guys' feedback. We're also recording today, so you'll have the link to this recording by the end of the day. So if you want to go back and watch it, if you want to share it with anybody else, you're free to do that. If you have any problems with the Zoom, go ahead and put that in the chat and we'll try to get to those as quickly as we can. If you are in full screen mode and find that our videos are sort of floating, if those get in your way, you can click on them and drag them around your screen so that they're not in the way anymore. You can also click on the little minus sign that's in the upper left-hand corner and that'll shrink them down. I know the videos don't show up like that for everybody, so it's just for those who those are showing up like that for. So people, the videos are kind of docked up at the top. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Lisa.
Hey there, folks. Lisa Meharry. I'm working out of Orlando, been with Wycliffe just a little bit more than 10 years and have always been in the Orlando office, originally from Indianapolis, Indiana, and love being able to be here and share with you today. Going to go ahead and just start right from the very beginning with what in the world do we do when we're looking for brand resources. And so the first place to start is going to be on Workday. When you get to the Workday login, wanted you to know that there are 4 different options that you see, and some of you may have multiple ways that you could log into to Workday. And so I wanted to show you a concept Mark Borland had come up with. He said, you know, Workday is kind of like this big pool of data, and any of the access points that you have opportunity to go through still gets you to the same pool of data. So for instance, if you can log in from Wycliffe USA, it gets you into the data. If you use your SIL login, if you have opportunity to log in from that direction, you're still getting to the same pool of data. So that's just a little bit, we hope that we'll make it a little easier to understand which one do you use. In some ways, it really doesn't matter which login you use. If you have access to more than one, it still gets you to the same information. So I'm going to go in through Wycliffe USA. That's my option. It's possible within your browser then to save this kind of stuff so that you don't have to type it every single time. And that gets you into Workday proper. Then from here, I'm working with the Zoom controls. Everybody should have access to the Wycliffe USA Hub, and that's where you're going to find the branding materials. The brand stuff is visible in the Wycliffe USA Hub in 2 different locations. One of them is just on this home page of the Hub. Under Communication Archives and Resources, this little white thing here is called a dashboard. And underneath the dashboard, you're going to find the Wycliffe brand resources. Here's a description of it. If you'd like to see more of the description, that'll pop it out so you can read it just a little bit better. And I know that from a screen sharing perspective, that may be really, really small right now. The blue part is the thing that actually gets you to the resources. So you can skip the description and go straight to the blue link, and that will take you to the brand resources. The other place you can find them, though, is some of you may be very comfortable already, or if not, we'd encourage you to poke around lots in the tab called Partnership Development. Underneath that tab, all kinds of fun things to look at, and within the Communicating with Your Partners place, there would be the Wycliffe brand resources right here at the top. So either way will get you to the same stash of information. Need to just move my guy there, sorry. once it takes you here, it takes you to a Wycliffe Google Drive place. Now, there are all kinds of different things about Google Drive that we hope will be helpful for you to use. Move and zoom things again. And this is one of them that I wanted to show you. For starters, underneath the settings button, where however you end up in Google Drive, and probably you don't have as much of a breadcrumb trail as I have, don't worry about that. Underneath the settings, you have an option then to get Drive for desktop. And let me explain just a little bit about what that is. Drive for desktop, if you are working within the Wycliffe USA platform and your Google Drive, you access it through your Wycliffe USA address, then you would have the opportunity to download a thing called Google Drive File Stream. If you access your Google Drive things through an SIL address, you would be have the opportunity to download a thing called Google Backup and Sync. Either one of them would do the job that just makes you gives you a different way to access the resources that are available to you. You can always access the resources through the browser here, and there are lots of different things you can do. But I just want to let you know that if you do this, get Drive for desktop, and you may need to work with your tech ops or GTIS folks in order to get that accomplished, then you could look at all of the brand resources through a file explorer or through Finder on a Mac. And most of us are more familiar with looking at things in this kind of a manner. So just to let you know, it's out there, it's possible. That's not really what we don't want to go too much more into detail, but just to let you know that it's out there and it is available. And both of those ways work to get you to the same resources. How in the world did I get this in my Drive? Let's go there. So when you pop open the link, it will open all of these kinds of fun things that we're going to look at. But there's a way for you to find it again without having to go through Workday next time. Over here on the left-hand side of Google Drive, you'll see shared drives, and then underneath that is shared with me. That's where we want to go, shared with me. And you should have a link of all of the things that at some point in time, someone has given you access to them. Of course, it decided to repop. Come on, folks, scroll. There we go. Don't you love it when it works right? This is the link that you just clicked on if you clicked on the Wycliffe Brand Resources from Workday. It's got the number 8 beside it. That's just a file structure thing that they're doing back in the background. But if you right-click on this, the thing that's been shared with you, right-click. For most of you, you probably still have the option of Add to My Drive. Let me go down here to something that I've not added so that you can see what that looks like. If I right-click on this, you have the option to add to my drive. What that means is anytime you go to my drive, the Wycliffe brand resources would just show up. Now mine are buried because I've access to some different things, but they would be there. So you could always have access to them and you don't have to go through Workday in order to get that. So again, how did we get there? That was under shared with me, find the Wycliffe brand resources, right-click, and add to my drive. Once you do that, here we go. There are lots and lots of fun things that are in there. Just wanted you to be able to see some of them and be able to see that there are 2 ways to view all of these things. When I'm looking at file folders, my brain wants them in this kind of an order, list, right down the pike so that I can see what's what. But once I get inside these folders, it's going to be driving me crazy to just see the lists. How does that help me at all? But instead over here, this is just right across from the breadcrumb trail. Over here's this little guy that has the grid view. If we change to the grid view, I'm seeing, okay, if we change to the grid view, that means that it shows me pictures of the things rather than the things. Here is how to use an e-card. Then there are different, in these e-cards, there are different holidays. Well, Easter's the next one coming, so let's take a look.
We do have a question, Lisa.
Please.
Does that make a whole separate copy of the files, or is it just a pointer to the original drive?
It's a pointer to the original. Thank you.
Okay.
It does not make a copy. Making a copy of it you would end up needing to download it to somewhere else, to another location on your computer, or the drive file stream or backup and sync would allow you to make an offline copy, and that's a whole other thing on how that functions. If we have time at the end, I'd be glad to go back over the detail of how that works. That's a great question. But otherwise, yes, you're still looking at just a pointer, and all of these exist only in the cloud, only in Google Drive. Does that help?
Yes. Next question is, when I add to my drive, does that take up space in my laptop?
It will not unless you make an offline copy. If otherwise, what you're looking at in your My Drive is just a pointer to where it exists on the cloud.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, for sure. So in the e-cards, wanted you to see just the options that are there. For each of these, there's going to be a thing that you could input into an email, or you could post on social media if you'd like. And this one particularly has space for you to be able to use a photo editing program of some sort and add a message of your choice. The next one in the list has a message that's there. There would still be space for a personalized signature or something of that nature. But just to let you know that there are e-cards that are out there, and what those are is just marketing created designs that would be easy for us to share and just remind folks about Bible translation at the appropriate holidays. So that's what's in the e-card section. Back to the brand resources, want to show you also that there are images that are available. In the images, they're divided by parts of the world. So let's look, for instance, at the Pacific region. And we're looking in grid view. And so you can see there are tons of amazing images that are here. It might be a perfect thing to use. Maybe you've got a story that fits this part of the world, but you didn't necessarily have an image to go with it. But one of these images might be a great thing for you to use. So those are available for you to use at any point in time. You could grab one and download any one, and that way you've got them there. So then another thing that's available to us would be the kids resources. Those are just being developed right now in conjunction with the Kate and Mac program that will go on during the summer. And they're working to make those more available to us as well. I'm going to skip over newsletter, PowerPoint templates at the moment, and we'll come back to those. I'm going on to statistics. There are two documents that are in here. One of them is the number or the statistics that are in use right now as we talk about how much Bible translation has been completed, how much is yet to be done. And so just to let you, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, one question about the photos.
Sure, please.
Someone would like to know if they need to get permissions to use the photos.
These photos, thank you, that's a great question. These photos are sanitized and can be used in any manner. There is also not a credit listing with these like there is on skip.wycliffe.net, for instance. There is no credit that needs to be given. So these are just considered Wycliffe owned, but you're welcome to use them in any place that's appropriate for you. Great question. Anything else then?
That's it so far.
Super, okay. Thanks for asking the questions. I appreciate that. Where was I? Oh yeah, back in statistics. That's where I was. Back in statistics. Read first. Really, when it says that, it's a great thing to do. So what this does is explains, here's where we got the statistics. You may be aware that there are some statistics there right now that are posted on wycliffe.net. There are others that come out on a monthly basis from progress.bible. And so what this second document does is attempts to put both of those into one single understandable way. And I know that Wycliffe.net and Progress.Bible are also doing a lot of this so that we have one set of statistics that are as accurate as we possibly can make them. So that's what's going on in the statistics folder. Moving on down the line, from statistics would be videos. There are really just two files in here that tell you about how to find them, how to use them, where they are. This document you can see has a lot of links inside it. This shows you how to download from Vimeo so that if you want to use it in a PD presentation, you've got access to do that. And that gets us to leaves us with the three biggest things that we want to talk about today. And those would be the newsletter templates, the PowerPoint templates, and the logos. Well, let's take a look at this thing down here that says read first. And really, it means it. So I've gone ahead and downloaded it, and we'll open it here so we can take a look at it. And let's talk about this crazy little book. For instance, here it is. And you go, great, 46 pages. I don't want to read a 46-page document. But our encouragement is that if you will just take time with it, you'll find out, oh, it's like children's literature. There's a page. There's a page. So it's not real heavy-duty reading. That's a good thing. The other thing I want you to know about it is it's been written by the graphic designers that are a part of us, and yet it's been written for people who do not have a graphic design background. So it's not got a lot of technical jargon that will lose you. Instead, it gives you real practical things that you can do to be able to think through how's the best way for me to use this brand material. Let's see, we have a question coming in. I'm going to wait while we look at this.
You can continue.
Okay. This what is a brand? It's great for you to read through this. It's the kind of thing that if I oh sure, let's do. You know, this thing is a facial tissue by definition, and yet many of us would call it a Kleenex. Why? Because the Kleenex brand is so obvious. When you see the swoosh, you know that it's Nike. When you see the wave, you know that it's Coke. That's what brand is. And the idea that Wycliffe does have a brand. We have a particular way that the things that talk about us look. And something that happened within really the last 5 years is the folks who do the professional marketing for Wycliffe Corporate became aware, I think, or acknowledged, or however you want to put it, that a lot of the communication that is read by people who know about Wycliffe, in other words, our partners, they don't necessarily read all the stuff that comes out from corporate. They read our newsletters and they read the communication that we send. And so it became apparent to them, if we arm the membership with tools that look like what we're already using, that reinforces who Wycliffe is and reinforces the brand. So that's what we're looking at now is an accumulation of resources and tools that no one is required to use. But I tell you, once you see them, I think you're going to find out that they're cool enough that you're going to want to use them. And that's the great part about it. So
We do
going
have a
back,
question now.
sure, please.
It's dated 2020, but has it changed much from last year's version?
That's a great question.
Are the changes?
Yep. Okay. So there was a brand guide released in 2016, revised in 2017. All of those materials are still acceptable. Anything that was before that, and we'll talk about some specifics as we go through it, the encouragement would be to begin to move away from that. But let's go cut to the chase. If you've been doing this for any length of time at all, even 6 months or less, you've probably already begun to develop your own brand. With that in mind, and just looking at these tools, there are some things that you can do to move toward the Wycliffe brand and still not make it so that your partners, if you've been sending them the same kind of newsletter for 20 years and all of a sudden it looks radically different, your partners may go, what in the world did you do? You go to some conference or something. But it gives you an opportunity to begin to move in the direction of the Wycliffe brand. If you would, for instance, you'll see a number of fonts that we're going to present. If you begin to use the Wycliffe fonts, you're going to begin to look more like Wycliffe stuff. Then we're going to show you how to use the colors that are there and how to begin to implement them into the layout and the style that you already have. And then there's an opportunity for you to use some graphic design patterns that would also move you in the direction of Wycliffe. And then the fourth thing is there are some templates so that if you don't ever have to start from a blank page again, unless you want to. So all of the 2016, 2017 things are still acceptable. You're welcome to use those. You're welcome to add these to or replace, whatever works best for you. We good? Okay, moving along then. I want to show you down here the two themes, or the main theme, I'm sorry, for what marketing's doing in their information that they're presenting right now. All of the materials, they call them collateral materials, the print materials and the web materials that go out. They're talking about hope through Bible translation. That's a topic that we've been talking about for quite a while. They're using the kind of adjectives here that express what Bible translation is able to contribute to life. Going on down then, let's look first of all at the technical pieces, and the first one will be the logos. What you'll notice in this brand iteration that is different from in the 2016-2017 brand, the tag phrase of Partners in Bible Translation was no longer being used, and primarily because they were looking more to insert the full logo. This is Wycliffe Bible Translators. That is the preferred logo now. You'll see some material that's online and some material that's still in print that does have the whatever the mark, whatever the guy was who looked, guy with his arms in the air, or was that a W, or I don't even know what it is, but you'll notice that disappearing. And the plain Wycliffe with nothing else after it, you'll notice that disappearing, and almost exclusive use of Wycliffe Bible Translators. That's the movement, and that's just to delineate our specific organization. And so that's the encouragement for that. The biggest thing, is it possible to use the logo with other logos? Yes, it is. There are some limitations to that, and your entity will help you with that. So I'm sure you have a newsletter checker with whoever your entity is, that can tell you, can the logos be used together? This will show you that, for instance, using the logos, I'm sorry, got crazy here. Using the logos, there's a specific hint given as to how much space needs to be between them. The same kind of thing will happen here. If you want to put the logo down in the bottom of a page, get this a little bit bigger so we can see it, sorry, my cranky screen, is that they let you know specifically what are the hints that you can use to do the layout in a way that it will look attractive. And so there's specific details here on how to do that. The kinds of things that you probably already know. No, don't get squirrely with the logo. Just use it as it's presented, please. And where in the world do you find the logos then? Well, let's go back to the Google Drive for this part. Back in the Google Drive, in the Wycliffe brand resources, there is a specific folder for Wycliffe logos. We're going to get this in grid view again so you can see it. And then in the grid view, there are two different folders of them, two different versions. One is, and they look huge in the image here. If you double click it, that's what you get. And you notice the gray boxy stuff behind it. What that means is all of the logos that are in this folder have transparency in them. The kind of file that they are is called a portable networks graphics file, and that a PNG file, which has with it transparency. That means it's never going to have a little white box around it when you stick it on the top of something. There are specific guidelines given in the brand field guide as to when you should use black logos and when you should use white ones, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. That's what these guys are. Is there a reverse logo or a white logo that would be used specifically on a dark background? All of these are downloadable for you. The Wycliffe address block, that just what it says, it's got the address with it. There are specific times to use that as well. And the brand field guide talks about when to use which ones. And all of that details here so that you have access to it then. Okay? Any questions at all? Moving on then to color. In the color palette, rather than there being just two principal colors that were in use, now there are 7 principal colors in use. Not only that, but you're going to find out that the 7 colors that are in use, they have chosen to pair them in 8 different groupings that I think you'll find attractive. If you know what to do with these numbers already, then you're very happy right now. If you don't have a clue what to do with these numbers, don't worry, because the next page tells you. On this page, you'll find out here's how I implement those colors. Here's how I put them into the program so that I can make this block the orange that I want it to be. So take a look at those, take a look at the detail that's in them. The one challenge will be everybody's computer screen will render colors differently. Everybody's inkjet printer at their house will render colors differently. So the encouragement would be, when we're printing our own newsletters, to as close as we can get to something that's professional quality printing, then the color is going to be truer to what you expect it to be. And that's just an encouragement to think through. I know that more and more, lots of us are doing electronic communication, so then the colors are a little bit more predictable, is the best way to say it. But just be careful if you've got an inkjet printer that you know is out of whack when you're trying to print things, or they're just not going to turn out the way you expect them to. So be glad to give more hints on that. Personally, if you'd like to connect with me afterwards, feel free, and we'll be glad to give you as many hints as we can. We can't always recommend the recognized print vendor for Wycliffe, which is Salt 1-to-1. They're great to work with, and will give you good turnaround times and great cost on things if you need a vendor and you're just not sure where to go. Moving on then, questions first on colors?
Nope, you're good.
Good, all right. Then moving, typography, big fancy word that means which font do I want to use. If you have the fonts that were from the previous brand, the Corman Brush and Wycliffe Distressed, you're welcome still to use those. You're not going to see them in much of the web or printed material that's coming out now from the office. Instead, what they've gone to are 4 specific fonts that are available free. Now, I'm in an electronic version of the field guide, and so what that gives me then is it gives me a direct link to be able to go to these secondary fonts that they're using. Now, these are the 2 main body fonts that we're going to talk about, and that's Arial and Georgia. They're on everybody's computer. which also means you can compose things electronically and trust that they're going to go out the way you expect them to. They're going to show on somebody else's computer exactly as you created them to be, because they're such common fonts. The secondary fonts that are here, Montserrat and Tavarage, are used specifically for large headings and titles. That's what the goal is. But those are also free fonts, so you can download these from Google using these links in the brand field guide. They give some more specifics then as to how they recommend they be used. They give you examples of how you can combine the fonts together in ways that are attractive. And as I said, if you're looking to make a move in the direction of brand stuff, the fonts is just using the fonts would be an easy way to start that. Just to begin to incorporate those into the layout that you have and the color scheme that you have. After that, if you want to take the same layout you've been using, go back and input the numbers here so that all of a sudden you've refreshed your newsletter look just by changing the color scheme just a little bit. Well, then, I don't know how you are, but there are sometimes, I'm not a designer by background. And so a blank page is not a good place for me to be. So it really helps me a lot to have some kind of a layout that's been chosen in advance. And that's what's been done here. So I'm on the page of the newsletter layouts, and what you're going to see are examples of 5 different layouts for which there are now templates. And we're going to get to that next. So the 5 layouts, these, by the way, these are just starting points. If you like one of them, but you say, well, I like that, but I'd rather, then what we're about to show you will give you the opportunity to do that. But if you hate the blank piece of paper and it just scares you every month, choose one of these, and it's just a matter of substituting in your own information then. So if we go back to the Zoom, I'm sorry, if we go back to the Google Drive, oh my goodness, go back to the Google Drive for PD brand resource, Wycliffe brand resources, and we go into the newsletter templates folder. Man, there is so much stuff in here. Here are the 5 templates. You were just looking at them, and they're in the order in which you see them. So if you say, okay, I love template number 2, and I want to start with template number 2, then you go into your Google Drive folder for Wycliffe brand resources, newsletter templates, and just go look at template number 2. Inside the template number 2 folder, there are lots of details. So let's look at the big things first. The big things first, you see that's a Word document. This is a PowerPoint document, and this is a publisher document. They use exactly the same layout as each other. It's just a matter of which program are you going to use to do the modifying. I can tell you that inside Google Drive, the previews that you're seeing right here, the little grids, sometimes the previews look really, really squirrely. So don't be afraid of that. When you open the document, it's going to open in the way you want it to. For instance, you can see it doesn't know what to do with publisher, how to preview that. Sometimes the word things, they're all skewed as to where they're laid out on the page in the preview, but not in the template itself. And then here we go. So there's Blue Caribbean, template number 2 in 3 different formats. Then here's exactly the same layout, but with a different color scheme. And you have 3 of those. Here's exactly the same layout with a different color scheme. And then here's one more layout. I'm sorry, exactly the same layout, but with a different color scheme. So the PowerPoints are going to open, I think, fastest. We're just going to pop those open there. I guess you do have to download it first in order to do that. So we're just going to do it. Coming. Here we go. PowerPoint is one of the easiest access programs for folks to get, and so that's why we've made sure to create PowerPoint templates. If you still have Publisher, it's probably the most user-friendly for true desktop editing, but it's also very difficult to get Publisher or very expensive to get Publisher if you don't already have it. So we're going to enable editing on this just so you can see what the components look like. This has been constructed to be an 8.5 by 11 slide. Knowing that, then it's going to print just fine on 8.5 by 11 letter size paper. Coming in here so you can see what's going on here. So you have 2 different things going on. One is this pattern. You can see almost this flower-like pattern or lace-like pattern, and then here is the second color. Now what they've done is they've input the image that's right there, and then here you go. Here's the text that you can type into anytime you want. Here we go. Here's the text. Guess what? It's using Arial as the body font. What's it using here? It's even using Arial as the title up there. You could change that if you wanted. It's got the date right there using, look at this. This is a third color from the color scheme that they're going to say is a great accent color for this pairing of this blue and Caribbean. There's an accent color. Drop in your own photo. You may have noticed that all of the photos, when I started using Publisher and Word way back when, photos always needed to have a frame, some kind of a boxy thing around it that just set it off, and it was very inappropriate to put a photo anywhere without a frame. Well, with the current brand philosophy in our American society today, the thought is, no, don't frame it, leave it without a frame. The other thing you may notice is pictures used to be like contained in a header or something of that nature. Here's the header image, and you put your picture and just contain it right there in the image. Nope, things overlap the space and bridge the space as much as anything else. So that's what's going on here with the general layout principle. But there you go. Type your text in. Here you go. Name, address, your Wycliffe contact information. Then here's the photo that goes with your story. Now this one is very photo heavy. Oh my goodness, look at this. Isn't that fun? This one has both the colors combined, the blue and the Caribbean, and has the logo already built into it. And so all you have to do truly is edit the text, change the photos, and you have an attractive newsletter that's ready to go, ready to be printed, turned to a PDF, turned to a JPEG, and distributed in the way that you've already been distributing it. So let's say you don't like the blue Caribbean. You would rather instead go with this guy, the red Caribbean. So here you can see it again. I won't download this one, but it's got the same pattern, the same flowery pattern, and or lacy pattern, whatever, and just uses two different colors. Okay, now let's say I like those, but they're boring to me. Okay, so let's go over here to the secondary colors and look and see what you've got. These are PowerPoint only, but here are the other four color combinations. This is blue and orange. All of the secondary color combinations have orange with them, I can tell you that. So here's Caribbean and orange, orange and red, yes, really, blue and orange. Teal, I'm sorry, teal and orange. But all of them with the same little lacy pattern thing. Now, these would be the 8 color combinations that they encourage you to use. The 4 that are here, the 4 that are in the secondary. But let's say, for instance, you go, you know, I love this pattern. I love the little lacy thing, but I don't like the layout. Well, here's what they've done then. In the assets folder are all of the individual components. So that from the assets folder, you could use this border. And let's say you didn't like this one at the bottom. Well, you could use this one instead. You notice how they're labeled, that this one is a bottom bar, but this one is a bottom bar and the logo. So you have complete control over it. Now, the encouragement from the brand field guide would be to not use, for instance, the blue Caribbean header with a purple bottom bar. That's too many, even though they're the same pattern, that it's more color than is going to truly work well for you. So using the color, but you know, if you want to use purple and yellow together, they think they're great. We would encourage you not to use the purple yellow bar with the Caribbean bottom bar, though. That's too much color. But as I said, you could see in the templates that they've chosen a highlight color and put it in at least one place so that you have an opportunity to have a third color just for highlight perspective, and they've chosen what those are. Now, we could do exactly the same thing in any one of these template folders. In all of the template folders, with the exception of number 5, number 5 does not have any assets that are different, truly. The only thing they have is the one line that's there. And the line, you could make your own line with the color codes from the field guide. You could make your own line in whatever color you wanted. So there aren't secondary colors. All they have, like I said, is just the color line that's up here at the top. And I guess the font is in the highlight color as well. So a lot less stuff, a lot less clutter on this page. If you're looking for something that's really straightforward, then it does that. You may have also noticed that the body text of all of the newsletters is set to be a single column. And the primary reason for that is that essentially, wow, we would say the majority, at least, well more than 50% of people are not reading your newsletter in print anymore. They're reading it on some type of a screen. And in order for them to read it effectively, if they have to go up and down the column and up to another column and down, then that's going to discourage them from reading. That's been our experience. And so instead, looking at a single column for the body, the secondary column would have prayer requests, contact information, one of those kinds of things in it. And so that gives folks an opportunity to access your content just straightforward and to do it there. So questions at all about newsletters, newsletter templates, things you'd like to see again?
Does the guide discuss paragraph justification?
Good question. I don't remember if it does. I know I can tell you what editorial guidelines, that's mostly, yeah, that's mostly, oh, we'll get to that in just a second. Let me answer the question here first. In general, I can tell you that left justified is the current brand preference, and as opposed to full justified. That left justified is primarily because of the current thought. Well, if you're looking for the principal tool that is the guideline, for instance, there are all kinds of professional style guides. The one that the Wycliffe brand, on which the Wycliffe brand is based, is the AP style guide. And so within those different contexts, you're going to find things about punctuation and things about capitalization, and then some other Wycliffe preference things that have been added to it. And those are all in the field guide here. So I'm aware of a number of folks who have a preference for full justified. Nobody's going to tell you can't anymore, but the encouragement would be to think left justified because of how the spacing of the text lays out.
The rest were just more comments about
Okay.
the benefits or not benefits of full justified.
Got it. Very cool. Okay. Well, let's go back into the field guide just for a minute. We still want to look at the PowerPoint templates. We're going to go there. Email standards. I'd encourage you to take a look through those. Email best practices. Those would be great to help you in being able to communicate effectively. I think they're good things to read. But then here are editorial guidelines that are more to content as opposed to layout. Just great hints on how to write. Keep it simple, keep it tight, focus on hope. They're great things. You can read them there. They're always then style rules. Here we go. The AP Press style book. There are some things that you can access here free, and there are other things you cannot. But the Wycliffe related specifics that are here will be really helpful for you, I think. A number of them then also talk about foreign words, religions, things also too about like I said, capitalization that may be a little different than what you've seen before. See if I can get this word. There we go. Nope, that doesn't help at all. Trying to get so we can see it better. But I would encourage you to take a look at things. There are phrases that have been in use in the past and are perhaps not as much in use anymore. Expats, we know what that means, but it for many people would be an insider term. They'd have no idea what you mean by that. So just to notice that, and to notice that this is the preference of how to express things. Illiteracy, having inappropriate connotations from what we want to communicate, even though most of our people are pre-literate or non-literate, and just what the difference is in that. Great other words that may have been appropriate at times in the past, but in today's culture are perhaps not. So just to take a look at this list, it's a great list. Third world countries, Wycliffe member. Some places you cannot say the word missionary, and yet the word member is an insider term. So does anybody know what that really means? You may have seen the information come out about heart language, that in today's society, many of you have had the experience, I'm sure, of dealing with folks who do not have a single heart language, that they instead can communicate effectively in multiple languages because of their background or context. And so how do we talk about that then? So lots of good definitions that are there for you to take a look at. We encourage you to do that. So I think that's about all I want to talk about for the field guide, but let's go back in to the templates one more time, and let's look at the not just the newsletter templates, but also the PowerPoint templates that are here, because these are fabulous. Explaining about the two different things that you're seeing here. The screen that I'm working on right now is a 16:9 screen. It is significantly wider than it is. It's almost twice as wide as it is tall, as a matter of fact. The old style pre-flat screen television that we all looked at and the projector that is still present in some churches is a 4:3 or standard ratio. So those are more squarish in how they look. So if I open all the way to the PowerPoint slide, you can see that it's very squarish in nature. Our experience has been that it's very possible to project a squarish 4:3 slide on a widescreen. It sometimes causes complications depending on what's on the slide if you try to take a widescreen slide and project it on a square projector. So just be aware of the differences and make sure that you know what it is you're getting into format-wise, because otherwise the things you may have created on your widescreen PowerPoint slide, when it's projected on the other projector, may get all squirrely and not at all look like you expected it to. There are tricks that you can use to get around that. Be glad to share them with you on a private basis, but that's a little bit more than I think we want to go for here. But just to let you see, the 4:3s are all in folders according to regions of the world. I'm not sure why then that the standard ones, or I'm sorry, the widescreen, those are all in one big folder. So it's the easiest way to see them and see what's available to you. So you're going to notice the same color schemes that you had before. There's the red and Caribbean, and they've used the dark blue as a highlight color, and they're great images. And then in the field guide, I wish I hadn't closed it, they will talk about where to use black or white font. That essentially the only places you would use a white font, I'm going to do this wrong, the places you would use a black font, let's go there. The only color you would use black font on is the Caribbean color. It's light enough to use black font. Any of the other slides, you want to use a white font, or you would use a white logo if you were adding a white logo to this. A white background, of course, you'd use a black font, but the red, the blue, the purple, the teal, you're gonna use white on those in order for them to be seen most effectively. You would also use black on the yellow. So it's well, you're looking at all three of them here, the Caribbean, the white, or the yellow, you'd use a black font, black logo, and all the rest you'd use white on. So great images that are here. Fun starter things for you to be able to take a look at. You notice that what this is this is just an image. This is not a PowerPoint slide. So you have the opportunity to download the image and then either set it into your slide or set it into your slide background, however you prefer to use it. But they're great little images. Questions at all on the PowerPoint slides?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, then just to show you the last thing, then these, music options, forgot that part. These are were done by a pastor in the Orlando area, and so he's recorded some things. This one's Matt Peterson, who's in the marketing department, playing harmonica. It's great. But just if you're looking for PowerPoint music backgrounds, you have opportunity to use these. They are free to us to use. Then if you're really into doing PowerPoint editing, what you have here are the PowerPoints, which can be edited in Google Slides or yes, can be downloaded. And these are not just the images, these are the slides that include all of the formatting that's available all the way down. If we go to view the master slides, if this makes no sense to you, don't worry about it, use the images that you see there. But if you're looking to look at the slide master, it's got all the formatting, all the different options available to you in all of the colors. So just to know that all that detail is there and already formatted, if this is the granular kind of control that you'd like, it's all there. All right, cool. Guys, that's it. So those are the resources that are available, that are free to us to use. The only other document we didn't take a look at is resources to help advocate. That's a part of the partnership development resources that are out there. Be glad to answer specific questions, or hang around, but that's the content that I have. Appreciate so much your coming.
While we're waiting for questions to come up, I'm going to be putting a link to a survey into the chat. So if you have time to take it now, go ahead and grab the link. Otherwise, you'll receive it in an email a little bit later. We have a question. Where is the master slide deck?
The master slide deck was under PowerPoint templates. It's right there in the root folder. So you've got the 3 different folders here, and then these are just the files themselves. And you know, those are PowerPoint templates, but they're also available as Google Slides. That's what those are.
This format doesn't allow us to personalize our letters like a MailChimp. How do we make this work?
MailChimp, all the way back to 2016, we were requesting templates for MailChimp to be used inside MailChimp that would be Wycliffe templates. And the marketing team has found that that's virtually impossible, that there are just not ways to do it. But what you can do, though, is if you go into the newsletter templates folder again and choose the design that you like, from there, then in the assets folder, you have all of those individual components, and all of these individual components could be then uploaded into the place where you'd like them to be in MailChimp. Then you can do the personalization that you'd like to do within that context. I'm not a MailChimp user. I'm not intuitive to how it thinks at all. So I would defer any other specifics then to Jen at this point.
There are some real basic templates. If you go through Workday, there's MailChimp resources there. There are a few templates there that use the colors and fonts. They're not super fancy, but they are there if you want them to start off with.
Thank you.
Give you guys a couple more minutes to ask any questions that you might have before we close up.
My last encouragement would be take a look through the field guide. It really is not that hard to read through, and then just to start to experiment about it. If you haven't already started, for instance, poking around on all these things in Workday, poke through the brand resources, poke through all of the Google things that you can see, and just go for it. Experiment with it, explore it. You can't break anything. You can't download the last copy of anything. It's there for us to use as just a wealth of resources that we hope will be an encouragement to us as we try to keep communicating about Bible translation to our partners.
Right, we're getting lots of messages of thank yous for the presentation. You guys, I did put Elisa's email into the chat earlier, so you're free to reach out to her for the different topics that she mentioned, that if you needed some more individual help.
Glad to. Very glad to.
Again, otherwise we're going to send out the link to the survey as well as the recording for today's session in an email a little bit later today. You'll be seeing it come out from Nancy Loveland, so keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and close up for the day. So thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.